Oh, and the music. Where's the music? We need the music.
How you doing, Nash? How your Knicks doing these days?
Listen, we didn't blow a 23-point lead. I can tell you that much.
Where, if you have a pie chart to kind of break up the blame, where do you put the blame for this? It's another failed season that you guys gonna have.
There's a few things. It's a season of, I think Tibbs and his rotations are still a problem. Julius Randle's not a number one option. You're still missing that guy. We don't have our Kevin Durant, if you will.
Ashley, like the Knicks, our conversation is about to be eliminated.
That Knicks joke was cold-blooded. Came out quick. Dang, we're a quarter into the season. Things can change.
NBA players, players in tennis, players in other sports have also supported the cause of Brittney Griner. You also have players and people and athletes and others who have had a platform that they could have used to help better this situation, to help bring positive light to the situation, to help educate those who did not know, and instead have chosen to use that platform to kind of be emotional. You know how people be like, do your research, girl, do your research. Research doesn't necessarily mean you about to sit in the library for 50 hours with a book. That's not what it means. What it means is open up your mind and ability to educate yourself with people who know more than you. What we need to do, in my opinion, is just to continue to educate each other, and in that, educate ourselves.
Ooh, Reverend Brasby. Y'all do the rest of the show. You're so good. You're so damn smart. I just want to sit here and listen to y'all. So, Gary, I'm leaving. Minutes ago and help lead us to a victory. See you guys on Monday. Baker Mayfield.
Any better than that? Obviously, we'd like to be a little bit more stress-free, but it's a pretty damn good story, I'll be honest with you. So it's special. You know, I used to not necessarily complain about the fact that I had that many different offensive systems and having to learn that, but it came in handy when having to learn a crash course and being able to relate certain things. And, you know, Sean's protection scheme is similar to Bill Callahan's, who I had in Cleveland. So the terminology with that knocks out a big chunk of the learning curve, and just trying to learn all the motions and the terminology for that. It's tough. But those guys did a great job of helping me out, communicating when I got off the field on the sideline and just talking about what the plays that are coming up. There was still definitely some, looked like some rookie errors with formations and motions. Obviously, it hurt us late, but, you know, it worked out. But not having the timeouts to be able to call on defense, you know, it came down to that 3rd and 1 stop. Defense did a hell of a job making that stop and giving us the ball back. So there's things that definitely need to be worked out, but those guys helped me out in this crash course. To be honest with you, I'm just looking to be the best version of me possible, learn and improve in the system, trying to take away from a great group of guys that have had a lot of success. Obviously, you know, the injuries, it's tough, but just trying to learn from everybody here, take in as much as I can, and let the pieces fall where they may. I can't control the future. I know I have, you know, the next 4 games here, trying to build on that and just be the best version of me and improve.
I got to tell you, Tom Brady said it first. Then Jacoby Brissett said it. Now I'm going to say a version of it. That was effing awesome. That really was. Last night, watching Baker Mayfield do his thing. Baker Mayfield, the only team that claimed him off of waivers was the LA Rams. The only team that claimed him. He didn't have that much time to get ready for this game, Thursday night game. Mayfield gets to LA on Tuesday, and on a Thursday night against the beleaguered, we can say that should be the word in front of the Las Vegas Raiders, against the beleaguered Las Vegas Raiders, leads a 98-yard drive to win the game with 10 seconds left. This is just unbelievable. Albert Breer, my brother, is here, and Bert, the only thing more awesome than that last night was this time window that we're in, this time window where we talk so much trash, Bert. Everybody knows we're both Ohio State fans, we're Buckeyes fans. So we talk so much trash before Ohio State, Michigan. It happened to be after Thanksgiving. So the Saturday after Thanksgiving, you know, I came back on Monday, you weren't around, and then we had some shows, we had some things. So this is our first time to talk since Buckeyes,
the game,
Wolverines, and here's the thing: now the Buckeyes are in the playoffs.
I know the boogeyman's alive. The boogeyman's alive. I mean, I'm trying to keep a low profile. I'm trying to keep a low profile.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Me too.
But I mean, like, you know, maybe some people did some things on someone's field that now they may have to answer for a lot sooner than they thought they were going to have to answer for them, right?
Yeah, and look, and Bert, I know we're going to talk some NFL, but I was talking to Vinny Goodwill, who really was talking in my ear, and I had nothing else to say to him because he said Michigan was going to win, and he was right. Yeah. But when he found out, when USC lost, he said, okay, it's still not the same. There's only one game. There's only one game. Okay, he's right. In a sense, there's only one game, so you lose in Columbus to Michigan. You can't really take that away. However, if you happen to play Michigan for the national championship and you happen to win, yeah, you lost the game. But are we really gonna dismiss losing?
Can you imagine
winning a national championship?
Think about this. CJ Stroud's legacy does a 180 if he beats Georgia and Michigan to win the national championship. He goes from a
tall order too. That's a tall order, baby.
Georgia's tough. I'm not predicting anything. Let's just make that clear right now. I'm out of the prediction business for the rest of the college football season.
And Bert, if you make me predict something on Ohio State, Georgia, it's not going to go in our favor.
Right. I
don't love the matchup, quite honestly.
But you think about the opportunity in front of these kids now. You know what I mean? Like, these kids had to hear for a week, like, all right, like, you're always going to be remembered for this. Like, I think CJ had a line like this isn't going to define me. Well, you know, it sort of is. Like, going 0-2 as the Ohio State quarterback against Michigan, like, that game's defined a lot of people. You know, that game defined Jim Harbaugh before he turned it around the last couple of years. That game defined John Cooper. That game defined Brady Hoke and Rich Rodriguez. And, you know, there are quarterbacks that have gone through there and not won, and it defined them. And so, I mean, that's sort of the way I look at it. Like, now, I don't know that those guys have much to lose. You know what I mean? Like, so it's going to be interesting to see how different that makes the dynamic for them, you know, because a guy like CJ Stroud, like, has an ability now to turn his legacy on its head and go from, you know, the guy who couldn't beat Michigan to one of the great quarterbacks in Ohio State history in 2 games, you know, and like, that's pretty amazing.
That's right. And that's why Cardell Jones still gets a lot of love at Ohio State. And there are many quarterbacks who are much better than he was, but happen to be a quarterback of a national championship team. So speaking of a quarterback who has a legacy that is tough to define, that is ever shifting, let's look at Baker Mayfield, a guy who also planted a flag at Ohio Stadium once upon a time. But Baker Mayfield, in the last calendar year, has been a Brown, has been a Panther, and now a Ram. And his first game with the Rams, as I said off the top, just incredible. And Bert, I wonder what you think about this. You know, Baker has won a playoff game in his career, so he's no stranger to success. He really had a good year in 2020 for the Browns. I wonder if you look at this, you look at Baker Mayfield and other quarterbacks who have taken a while to find their spot. You know, Geno Smith is a great example. Should we just kind of recalibrate how we evaluate quarterbacks? Yeah. I know coaches don't have 5 years to look at them, but should we look at them in 5-year windows? Is that too much?
You know, it's interesting you say that, because I think just because of the way the contracts work for first rounders now, like teams feel like they've got to have an answer on a guy after 3 years, right? Like, and so, I mean, we've seen it, and you can go all the way back to when these rules went into place in 2011, that first quarterback class with, Cam Newton and Christian Ponder and Jake Locker and Blaine Gabbert and Andy Dalton in it, and Colin Kaepernick in it. And like, there's been this feeling that like you have to have your answer after 3 years. The guy that Baker Mayfield was actually compared to a bunch coming out was Drew Brees. And it took Drew Brees longer than that. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I think it's interesting. I've talked to Gino about this a couple times now. And, I think Gino's feeling was, I've been this quarterback for a while. I just didn't have the opportunity to show it. And because people look at guys who sort of wash out in their first shot as starters as failures, or, okay, he's a career backup, you don't see very many guys swinging back around at 27, 28, 29 years old and reestablishing themselves. Yet, if you look back in history, right, and Pete Carroll actually brought some of the names up to me when I talked to him about Gino, there are a lot of decent examples of it. Jim Plunkett, Rich Gannon, Steve Young, like there are good examples of it if you go back in the history of the NFL. And so maybe it says more about us, than anything else, that we just have to have a final determination on a guy after 3 or 4 years. But we got a couple of good examples, I think, of how a guy getting to the right situation, and obviously with Baker, it's a much smaller sample size than Gino, but how a guy getting to the right situation can really help. And I think that was the case with Brees too. Like if you want to look at Drew Brees, like he was sort of in a weird spot in San Diego where I think they went through 3 coaches in his time there, and then they spent a first-round pick on another quarterback, and then he winds up with the perfect coach for him and Sean Payton, and his career takes off. I wouldn't rule out like the idea that Geno Smith could be that, for Seattle, or that Baker Mayfield could eventually become that guy for the Rams, especially if Matthew Stafford's career, is cut short, which I think a lot of people have the radar up for right now.
Yeah, I got to say, though, I love the response for this game. I love the response from Sean McVay on that winning touchdown pass. Great throw, by the way. Great throw from Baker to Jefferson to complete the comeback. And a great response. And a great response in the locker room for
So I talked
Mayfield.
to a couple. I mean, there are so many levels of this. I talked to Baker a minute ago. We'll have a story up on the site soon on this. But he, like how the waivers work in the NFL, right? So, like, the waivers come in for people who don't know at 4 o'clock every day. So 4 o'clock Eastern. So Baker and his agent had sort of figured out okay, they thought Houston might take him. The agent did some homework, said they're not taking you. Then second and third in the waiver order were the Bears and the Broncos. And they knew because of Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, they're not taking me. So they figured out the Rams were likely to take him, right? Baker booked a flight. And I know he mentioned this last night. What he didn't mention was what time that flight was at. It was at 4:48. So literally as that flight is boarding, he's figuring out whether or not the Rams claimed him, which is an amazing detail. And here's another one for you. You know how the wristbands work, right? Quarterback wristbands, your cheat sheet, right? Right. There was only one play that Sean McVay called off the wristband last night. Every other play, Baker had to have in his head, which is amazing. I thought that was an incredible detail.
Wow, that is an incredible detail. Only one play off the wristband. Everything else you got to have.
It was a third down. It was a third down. They converted it. It was a third down to Tutu Atwell in the third quarter. They threw the screen. They converted it, and it got called back. That was the only play they called off the wristband all night. Which, the other detail I got, his headset went out, his earpiece went out, in the second quarter. You got to give Baker Mayfield all the credit in the world, because to come in here and do this, and you and I both know how hard it is to pick up an NFL offense and how much detail there is to it. And yeah, there was some carryover, playing for Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski's a Gary Kubiak guy. Bill Callahan, the offensive line coach there. And as you saw in the sound there off the top, he worked with Sean McVay in Washington. So there was some carryover and some things that helped, Baker with the translation. But to be able to do this is incredible. 3 different coaches went to Baker and said, "Are you sure you're okay with this? It's okay if you don't want to dress and you don't feel comfortable." And every one of them, he said, "I'm ready to go."
I got to go. Now, on the flip side, Bert, once again, the Raiders, it's you really can't make it up. How many games have we seen like this? during the season when the Raiders appear to have control of the game. Hey, they make a couple of smart plays and you got this thing, you can win it. They lose again after blowing yet another lead in inexplicable ways.
Yeah.
I know there won't be a price to pay. I shouldn't say that. There's unlikely to be a price to pay for Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. Got it.
Yeah.
But what do they do with this? Like, what do you do if you're the Raiders? How do you process this and move forward when this is who you are now?
You know, what's so interesting about it is, like, a lot of the stuff that we saw them screw up last night, like, where Josh comes from, they're the master of it, right? Like, so, like, discipline down the stretch. You know, the pass interference call, I mean, it was the right call. It was close, but it was the right call.
Yeah.
But like, that corner has to know he's got help. Like, Deron Harmon's waiting there for the ball. You know what I mean? Like, so that corner has to know, like, I got help here. Like, the last thing I can do is tug on the guy's jersey, right? Or tug on his arm. And then like Jerry Tillery
pulling his arm.
Right. And then Jerry Tillery, with just, I mean, the all-time bonehead play of, like, knocking the ball out of Baker Mayfield's hand. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? I mean, you just, and if you look, like, those two penalties really ignited the drive, you know, and then later on, I mean, that's the thing to me. Like, I don't know if you saw the Amazon post game, Michael, but, you know, Baker said he was stunned that they were in press man coverage. Well, I don't know. I mean, like, I've watched a lot of New England over the years, Michael, and, you know, in that sort of situation, what's Bill Plant telling him? He's like, keep him in bounds, keep him out of the end zone, tackle him to the ground, and the game is over. There's 15 seconds left. Like, if they tackle a guy, if they defend the sideline and the goal line, and even if the guy catches the ball, you take him to the ground, the game is over. You know what I mean? Like, so there's just, that's the thing that's so wild about the whole scenario, is that there's so many situational things. And it makes me wonder, does Josh need to look in the mirror a little bit and be more the CEO head coach, right? Because these are game management things, right? Like, and if things are slipping in game management, situational management, does that mean Josh needs to take a little bit more of a step back from being the offensive guru? And a lot of guys have trouble with this. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of coaches, because they think, like, this is what I've been hired for, which is the right way to think about it, right? Like, I've been hired because I'm really good at this, so I'm going to keep doing this. I just, you know, you wonder, you look at it and it's like, could Josh have done a better job if he was more dialed into the game globally than just looking at the offense? And, you know, I give coaches who hand that stuff off a lot of credit. Like, I think Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia is a great example of it. Last year, halfway through the year, without telling anybody, he handed off play calling to Shane Steichen. And that was really when the Eagles took off, you know? And so I think the game management stuff was the stuff down the stretch, and basically the way the team conducted itself down the stretch that really kind of caught my eye.
Last thing I have for you, I could talk about football with you all day, you know that, but last thing for the time that we have, did Tennessee make the right choice? Jon Robinson, you've known him for a while. I've known him for a long time.
Yeah.
Did they make the right choice firing Jon Robinson at a very strange time when they're in first place and it's December and it's a critical time in the scouting realm? Did they do the right thing?
I mean, the way I look at it, they have two really good people and work it out. You know what I mean? Like, I think Mike Vrabel and Jon Robinson are two very good people and work it out. And, you know, like, the timing of it does make you wonder a little bit, like, all right, is there another layer to this? Is there something under the surface? Maybe the investigation into the DUI coming off of the team plane from Green Bay. Like, those things sort of go through your head. What I was told was this is the owner making a decision that's not dissimilar to the decision she made when they hired Mike Vrabel in the first place. They fired Mike Mularkey after back-to-back 9 and 7 seasons. Those are the only 2 years that Mike Mularkey was the head coach there. And they made the decision then that good's not good enough. And we want to get a coach to match up with Jon Robinson, who they thought at the time was doing a good job. So, like, that sort of matched up with this. There was some friction over some of the decisions now. Like, I don't know that Vrabel was fully on board with going and getting Julio Jones. Obviously, the A.J. Brown thing is well documented. So there's definitely some friction there. You know, it just sort of makes you wonder, is there more there, or had the relationship fractured further? I don't have evidence that it did, but I could see why, if you're Amy Adams Strunk, maybe you're making that decision and taking Mike Vrabel over Jon Robinson if you had to pick one or the other. The other thing is, like, if you're going to do this, here's the thing. They're going to win the division. And say you win a couple playoff games and you get to the AFC Championship game, maybe it becomes harder to make this move then. I personally would argue that'd be a good problem to have and that you should try to make this work for as long as you can. But, you know, obviously they felt like they needed to level up in that spot. And to be fair too, like J-Rob's had his ups and downs. Like they missed on some first round picks. Isaiah Wilson's the big one, but you know, like Adoree Jackson and Corey Davis. And like, so they've had their misses. I'd argue in his defense that like they've recovered from a lot of those misses, and he did draft Jeffrey Simmons and Derrick Henry and Kevin Byard. Like, and he got them out of the Mariota thing, like, and Ryan Tannehill's not great, but he got them soft landing out of that situation. I think he did a lot of good things. So, you know, I think this almost has to boil down to something that's not completely about putting the football team together.
And you could say that, and, you know, NFL fans would be shocked to listen to their brethren and sistren all around the league who complain about, oh, my coach, my GM missed this draft pick. They all sound the same. You know why you all sound the same? Because they all do it. Like there's no model organization. Whoever you think the model organization is, you an NFL fan in Tennessee or Philadelphia or New England or Los Angeles, you can say, well, I want to be them. I'll go to that fan base, and they will tell you they're dissatisfied too. Nobody's happy with their team.
Problem is,
in the draft,
Michael, you know what the problem
ever.
is? You know, the problem is sort of like all of us, where we look at like the draft classes right after the draft, right? Like, so like we all that Monday will like look at the draft classes. There are 8 players there. It's like, okay, this guy's going to play this role. This guy's going to play this role. This guy's going to do this. This guy's going to do that. And we're acting like all 8 of them, like all 8 of them are going to like have like roles as rookies, right? When the reality is, if you have 3 guys who wind up starting for you, and not even in the first year, if they just wind up being starters for you, that's a great draft. You know what I mean? Like, so exactly. I think we're sort of part of the problem too. It's like the expectation is
I would agree with that.
You're going to find like a guy that's going to contribute in the 6th round. I challenge anybody out there, like listening to this, watching this, go 4 years back. Go to 2018, Michael, right? Go to the 6th round and look at the names. And come back to me and tell me how many of those guys amounted to anything in the league. You know, it's hard.
It is hard. But, hey, it's not hard to talk to you, man. Albert Breer, one of the best in the country. And we'll talk after the national semifinal. I'll just say it that way, Bert. We'll talk.
No prognostications, Michael.
That's right. No, I know. I'm not talking. I've been humbled, kind of.
for the time being.
Yeah, that's right. You can see it there. Brittney Griner, day two of her life, her new life now. Coming back home after a nearly 300-day odyssey in Russia. And so you see her there, just great. I don't know about you guys, whether you're watching or listening. I can't see this enough. Just to see the happiness, to see the joy, also to see Brittney's wife and hear President Biden and Vice President Harris talk about what the reality is now. The reality is finally it's over. She's back home. So we got all these smart folks on the screen. I'm going to do a lot of listening. Natalie is here. Chasity Melvin is here. And so is Ari Chambers. A lot of great basketball minds. A lot of great minds, period. So I'll start with you, Ari. What were your thoughts, and what are your thoughts now that you've had a day to process everything, all the news that we got yesterday morning? What are your thoughts now?
My initial thought was hysterical crying. Very happy for Brittney after 294 days, finally back home. The hope was, that she'd be back before now, but we can only focus on going forward. So just knowing that she's on that plane, I believe she landed at 5 Eastern today in San Antonio, and just knowing that she is being reunited with her rock, her family, her friends, everybody who's, cares about her. And she can come back knowing that so many people fought for her, nobody forgot her, and then she can be home for the holidays. It's really special.
Chasity, how about you?
I was overjoyed. I woke up that morning, I had so many text messages. I try not to get on social media the first thing in the morning, but I have been praying. As soon as I get on Twitter, I do see that Brittney has been released and she's on her way home. And for me, it felt like I felt a burden that was kind of lifted off me that I didn't even know I was carrying. It was very hard for me to be on social media because there's been so many hateful things being said. And now I thought it would be better, but it's probably gotten worse now that she's back home. But at the end of the day, I don't care. She deserves to be home. And I'm very happy she's back with her family foremost. And, just for her friends and everyone that cares about her, Phoenix Mercury organization. I'm just happy that she's back. I really am. Overjoyed.
Is that where you are, Natalie? You in the overjoyed space?
Of course I'm overjoyed, but I too was just overcome with emotion. I couldn't stop crying yesterday. So, and then I'm also very bothered by some of the comments as well. So, but I'm just so happy she's home, and that God answered all of our prayers. And I'm so happy for her family, her wife, the W, I'm so happy for her and thankful. Gratitude is what I feel.
Yeah. And I do. I want to, we'll get to those comments in a second. I know, Chasity, BG very well. What were your thoughts? Forget about yesterday for a second. Go back. What were your thoughts based on your knowledge of her? What were your thoughts when she was going through this day 50, day 100, day 200? What were some of the thoughts you had then?
Well, I knew it was definitely mentally challenging for her. Like I've told a lot of people that come up to me and ask me about Fiji, it's one thing to live in another country for 7 months and play basketball. It's already taxing enough to be away from your family and friends. To be over there and not be playing basketball and also to be locked up and be in handcuffs, I can't imagine. Every time I arrived back home from whatever country I had been in for the last 7 or 8 months, it took me a readjustment period being back stateside. And I had a lot of lonely times over there. And so every day, I kept telling people, you have no idea what she's going through. So for me, my thoughts were always with her every day. It had to be extremely traumatic for her because it's just hard being over there by yourself playing basketball, especially in Russia when it's freezing cold and dreary and depressing weather, crazy. Can't imagine.
Yeah, we had some conversations yesterday, Ari, about the WNBA and what can we do now? What can we do to support? There was so much support for Brittney from WNBA players and players in other sports. Bring Brittney home, and then there was an outpouring of support from some of those same athletes when they heard the news. But I know we were talking to Tarika Foster-Brasby and others yesterday who said, okay, if you really want to support the WNBA, why don't you go to the games? Okay, why don't we go to the games? Why don't we start talking about the WNBA in a different way? Those are just two suggestions. Would you like to add on? Is there anything else we can do now?
I would.
Now that we've got her back.
Yeah. Yes, I'm looking at Nat's shirt and I'm like, protect them, love them, see them. And I think it's really important aspect of it all. Tarika said go to games because visibility matters. Because you can't protect and you can't speak up against or speak up for what you don't know. And so as long as you pay mind to the league, despite the negative things that might come out, why don't you pay mind to the positive things? Why don't you pay mind to the game? These players, find a player that you like, draw yourself to them, follow their journey, even if it's just from college through the pros. Just attach yourself to some aspect of the professional game and not when it's to tragedy. And so you can love them and you can cause others to see them so that if they are in situations like that, you can protect them. What we can do is, preaching the choir right here, but I can bring a friend to the game that's never been before. I brought my friend Faven last season. I'm a season ticket holder for the New York Liberty, a paid season ticket holder for the Liberty, even though I don't necessarily have to do that, but I'm pouring into the league. I'm making sure that I'm visible. I am there. They can be visible. I'm capturing content. I'm putting on social media. I'm pushing for, the future of the league to be more visible. And that's what we have to do. We have to push because people who are the investors of this, need to know that the demand is there. So as long as we make sure we're on the forefront of showing up for them like they show up for the world, that's how you can trickle down and make more investments happen so that the visibility can happen through like a network situation.
Chasity, you see that headline up there about the WNBA incentivizing its players to stay home rather than going overseas. Is there enough of an incentive where you can say, okay, I'll do that if I want to, but I don't need to do it. I can do my business right here. And if that's not happening, how can we make that happen?
No, I love that. I mean, we didn't have those opportunities back in the day when I played, so we had to supplement our income. You know, Michael, if you know the history of any professional sport, back in the day, the NFL players, after their season ended, they got jobs, you know, to supplement their income. So it's not a new story that athletes starting out with a new organization or just, you know, a new professional sports team. They have to do other things to supplement their income if they're not having guaranteed contracts and making tons of money. So I'm excited that the president is doing that. And there are tons of opportunity for players to stay at home. And now what they can do with their social media platforms and how they can make money from home and supplement their incomes in that way is definitely a plus. But it's also, I mean, some players like to go to other countries and play basketball and make money. Now, I don't know that players can make $1 million, what, you know, $1 million or more dollars, what Brittney Griner was making in Russia, you know? So with that being said, like our community, you know, there's only a small opportunity. You know, I'm a big dreamer, but if you have that type of contract and that opportunity, you want to take advantage of it because you never know when it'll come back around. So at the end of the day, I do think it's a personal choice, but I would like to see the season extended and obviously more opportunities, more money for the ladies not to want to steer more towards staying at home in the States and building the league and being more. So as Ari says, the WNBA is so important. So more of the fans can continue to see them and continue to, because it's one thing to find a player and you want to follow them in the WNBA. And then as soon as the season's over, we're overseas and everybody's wondering what happened. Where are they? You know, I can't really follow my favorite player. Although social media makes that more accessible now, it's still very difficult and challenging when there's another basketball, when all the other basketball seasons are going on, NBA, college, rec, semi-pro, pro, high school. You know, it's very hard to stick with those players and follow them throughout the season. So that's what I would hope that the future is leaning towards with the WNBA, that we have a longer season and players start steering more to building their brands and being able to supplement their incomes in a variety of ways at home.
I want to tap in with the CBA, though, because the CBA is now designed that you have to be home before or by training camp, and it's going to be harsher penalties where you might not be employed. And so this year is going to be a little bit more lenient, but they're going to have to start being home sooner than later because of how the CBA is structured. But there are more opportunities to make money, like Chasity was saying, within the United States. The WNBA has 10 PMAs this year, which are the player marketing, the players who are in charge of the marketing, and there are 10 of them this year. Last year, there was only 3. So we see more chances for them to make, supplemental income while they're here. And then Athletes Unlimited is another way to make some money in, I think it's February this year in Dallas, where you stay in shape, you still play on a competitive level, but it's 5 weeks, one location. Your friends can come, your family can come. And it's a mix of WNBA players and other professional players. And so it's a nice little merger of that. And it's a player run type of league. And so it's just, I was present at that, and it seemed that the players were having fun. They were in great spirits, and they loved the player run type of aspect with that. They got a full incentivized way to play because it's a point system based with individual. And then the top 4 each week get to coach. And so you get all those aspects of it. And then you have several coaches, like actual coaches, like Pokey Chapman was there to help guide the players that are serving as coaches, but it's just a good structure for them to stay in the States. So between the PMA deals and the CBA, the WNBA is trying to make it so that the players don't have to go overseas and then increase pay. Hopefully the next CBA signing, they'll have even more of a salary because you see the growing interest within the league.
Natalie, I want to go back to something you said off the top. You wear many hats for brother from another. One of them, social media guru. And I guess I can say the strength of social media is that everybody has a voice. Everybody's got that platform. The weakness of social media is that everybody's got a voice. Everybody's got a platform. You know what I mean? It's like giving a driver's license to everybody. Everybody shouldn't be behind the wheel. And at some point, be like, damn, stop driving. Stop driving. No. You shouldn't be driving right now. So you heard some comments yesterday. What were the comments that you wrestled with, or you felt the need to respond to?
I definitely responded to some, but I probably should have took Ari's advice. And she said to keep, block people and to keep your peace. And it's one of the things I tried to do mostly. But, I anticipated the kind of comments that were going to come, which is unfortunate because I knew. But, there's a lot of, calling Brittney a pothead. Why are we leaving her? There's this, I call it kind of like a fake outrage, a disingenuous outrage over, we need to bring the Marine home. And I'm not saying that we don't need to bring him home, but you weren't this outraged or talking about it before you knew that it was a gay Black woman who they were deciding to bring home. And I think there's underlying reasons for the backlash against bringing her home. She's an American. This is her home, and we should be supportive of bringing her home. So just things like that. You break laws in a country, you know, this is what you have to do. And I feel like there's not a lot of, I feel like there's not enough coverage, sort of bringing some of the facts to the forefront. So, for example, that she was prescribed to have that marijuana the cannabis oil for pain management, right? And so, whether or not your views on weed or whatever it is, marijuana, she did have a prescription for it, and, she explained that she was just packing in haste and it was in her bag. So, we hear all the time, you have cases like Kyle Rittenhouse, things that come up in the US, and we ask for leniency, consider their age, consider these kinds of things. And this is less than an ounce, under Russian law. Under Russian law, she could have gotten a fine for it, but instead they chose to give her prison time and sentence her to 9 years to make her a political pawn. And that is so disheartening. And the fact that a large portion of the country is not showing her love and is questioning why we're fighting to bring her home, that's incredibly disheartening. And, as a Black woman, it often feels like we're at the bottom of the totem pole. And unless we show love for each other and support each other and fight for one another, no one else will fight for us. And then Brittney has it even harder because she is a queer Black woman. And so it's saddening, it's disheartening, and I won't stop fighting for her. And sometimes I will be in these Twitter streets defending her.
I mean, I had to hop in too, girl. Let me tell you, I'm sorry. I know this.
No, it's good.
I had to hop in too because they were outraged about Paul, which is rightfully so. But the difference is we were collectively coming together, activating for Brittney. We were sounding out for Brittney. All this outrage I had not seen on my timeline until the tweet, until Brittney was released. There were other prisoners released earlier this year, but the difference is she's a queer Black woman. So we really have to dive into the fact hey, this outrage did not happen beforehand. And if you are this outraged about it, advocate. Activism is very real. Mobilizing for somebody is very real. And if you feel so deeply about it, get behind it. Sherelle said on CNN yesterday that her and Brittney, after decompression, will continue to fight for those wrongfully detained because they have gotten close to these families. And, Sherelle just finished law school. She has a beautiful career ahead of her. I have no doubt in my mind. But it's the simple fact that she's already made a promise to the public. And even if she didn't have to do that, first of all. Black women are always saved the day. But she's made a promise to the public that her and Brittney are going to dedicate themselves to this cause. And so for them to be so outraged and not use that energy to mobilize for Paul, that tells a lot about them too. Both can exist. Like Tarika said, people can walk and chew gum, right? We can be overjoyed for Brittney and still want better for society. Absolutely. And I'm not going to lie to you and say I was considering, because I frankly was happy that my friend is coming home. I'm happy that this wonderful is returning home. And those who are so enraged that Paul is still imprisoned, mobilize for it.
That's
Exactly.
right. Oh, I love it. I think you said it. I think you said it beautifully in your tweet, Ari. And I wonder if you had thoughtful responses. I think I know. Thoughtful responses or responses are like, no, I'm just going to stick to my talking points. I really want to address the content of what you said. I think I know the answer. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But,
So
final
Twitter,
word. Oh, go ahead.
Twitter is great because they hide a lot of replies from me, but I had people demanding that I stand up for Paul, and that's fine. But they can too. Well, first of all, who are you to tell me who to activate for? And I will, but because social justice is in my blood. But not everybody's built like that. Some people just wanted their friend home, so they can get behind her as well.
Right.
Him as well.
That's right. Final word to you, Chasity. Just any thoughts on what we said here, or something else that you want to say before we head to this break?
No, I just appreciate all the support from the coaches, Don Staley, and different coaches around the league and college and in the pros and NBA, WNBA across the board. Just continue to keep this on the forefront. I would like to say, just for our culture personally, just athletes having a platform like the Don Staley's, like for them to have an extra burden to really continue to fight for social causes and social injustices. I mean, it's a burden that some other races with those type of platforms, they don't have to do that. They can just focus on their job and their career. So it says a lot about the people who have these platforms, especially women of color, men of color, head coaches, professional athletes that are stars, to have to, not have to, but that choose to, fight and say things and tweet to defend things that are going on that are socially, wrong. And it's a burden that's been put on us. At the end of the day, we don't all share that with other races. And I just hope one day, like, athletes and the people that are really living and working can come together and kind of brand together like it was back in the day. Muhammad Ali was with Malcolm X. Dr. Martin Luther King was with Jackie Robinson. So I do think that hopefully in the future, athletes are the only ones that media go to, because there are a lot of people who are doing the hard work and living it every day. And I just hope to see that come together. So coaches and athletes with already a big platform who are trying to be the best at their job don't have to solely take on that burden.
Absolutely. Beautiful. I'm glad we've all come together today. Natalie, thank you. Ari, Chasity. Look, everybody, Natalie's already here, but we always say this, doors open. You can come home anytime. It's home here. So please drop by anytime you want to talk about anything you want to talk about. We're here. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
All right, family, it's that time. My Bet's Your Money. I'm passionate about putting extra money in your pocket. Look at my record. I'm hovering just above 500, but December is when I do my best work. December and January and the Super Bowl. Okay, Jets and Bills, give me the Jets. The disrespect is real for the Jets. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I like those 10 points. Browns and Bengals. Browns always play the Bengals well. They beat them too. Give me the Browns. Eagles at Giants. Sorry, G-men. It's about over for y'all. Lions, I love Detroit. How many people say that? I will. I love Detroit. Give me the Lions to win this thing outright over the Vikings. They're a good football team. The record doesn't say they are, but they are. Just like we're good at My Bet Your Money, although the record doesn't say we're that good. And finally, Panthers and Seahawks. I think the Panthers are going to win the NFC South. Yeah, I said it. Go with the Panthers. My bets, your money, and if you have comments on it, weigh in next week. Speaking of comments. Speaking of comments. Oh, how did that work out? There's Natalie. Natalie. So look, I can't wait. I always look forward to what you have curated during the week. You got some comments that have caught your attention. So why don't you share with the family here at this at the dinner table?
Yeah, so this was a unique week for comments. We had a very active week here in terms of engagement. So our audience was really engaged. But we touched on it a little bit in the last segment because the news for the last, day or so has been that Brittney Griner got released. And so we obviously had to talk about it. And a lot of the comments were not pleasant. They were not nice to read. And so I didn't want to give those people the satisfaction of putting up any of their comments. But we did also have some people who appreciated the coverage. And in particular, something that I wanted to point out is everyone just kind of giving credit to Brother from Another for having Black women in sports who cover the sport and journalists on and helping to elevate our voices. And I can say personally for myself, as someone who is new to this space, both you and Mike have been so generous to me. And so I know we will continue to do that, but we were getting a lot of praise for that. And sometimes we need to give ourselves flowers, and I want to give both you and Mike flowers. So thank you so much for that. And that was some positivity that came out of that, despite so many overwhelmingly negative comments regarding Brittney's release.
Well, thank you for saying that. And look, we're just doing what needs to be done. We can't talk about doing the work and say there are these injustices and imbalances. And if we have an opportunity to do something about it, we sit there idly. And so we both are passionate about it. We talked about it before the show started. This is what we want to do. We don't want to just look up on the screen and see a bunch of dudes. We love dudes, okay? But we don't want to see just a bunch of dudes having a conversation. Everybody's got to be involved in this. You got to make this an inclusive party. What else you got in the comments?
Yeah, so we actually put up a poll because of Sherrod's hot take the other day on the show about your guy.
What else you got in the comments? Oh, stop, Sherrod.
No, but
that is crazy. That was crazy.
Let's just remind the folks what he said. He said, Jason Tatum, without question, is the best player in the NBA. So we put up a poll. The audience did not agree with him either. It was like overwhelmingly he's wrong by 76%. So over 1,000 people voted. Thank you for that. Finally, people really loved the Deion segments this week. And but there was a user who wanted to know if Brother from Another is going to continue to focus, or if we are going to cover HBCU football in light of Deion's departure. And our own Mike Smith had a response to him. But what is your response?
Hey, my response is a very easy yes. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching, and thank you for engagement. Now, would you like to tell people what Michael Smith's response was? Well, that was a very hilarious exchange.
Yes, Mike asked if you were new here because you need to check the credentials. You can Google, but both of these brothers have always covered HBCU football, and they don't plan to stop, and we don't plan to stop on this show. So it was quite hilarious. I don't think the person meant any ill intent, but sometimes tone can come across wrong on social. So we thank you for the support.
Yeah, but look, and I understand, and look, sometimes doesn't even come out right, but just the thought. We like the thought. But yeah, Mike just covered the Bayou Classic. I've covered the Bayou Classic. We've had Steve Weisshawn, who has been passionate about highlighting HBCU players before the draft in particular. And we did a segment with him right before NFL Draft Day. We'll continue to do that. And we'll continue to read what you have to say. Check us out. Brother from Another, have a great weekend. Natalie, great job as usual. See you next week.
Thank you.